Welcome to Talking Galloway podcast.
I'm Andy from the YouTube channel Stravaiging with Andy.
And I'm Angela from the YouTube channel Galloway Retold.
Today we're going to be talking to McNabb Laurie from G Woodlands.
And we also managed to get a wee catch up with Sam Heughan of Outlander fame. So Andy, what have you been up to in this last month then?
Well, it's been a crazy month. Weather's not been amazing, so we've had 1 week of heat wave.
Which is too hot to do anything.
Yep, and about 3 weeks of rain.
Yes.
So I did manage to make it out for one walk, got out reasonably early during one of the days and went and recorded the walk down to Bruce's Stone at Catstrand.
Oh, nice. That's
obviously
a nice...
not the one at Glenfrey from the one that always shows up first, but
yes. Indeed. I have to write a little story about the battle of that.
Raploch Moss.
Yes. Interesting.
It was a lovely day for it. It was very warm. Loki enjoyed going and jumping in the Catstrand Shaw's Loch a few times.
Yes, yes.
So obviously having to dry him off before getting in the car, although it was so hot, it wasn't that bad.
He dried off quite quickly.
Aye.
Yes, it was a bit hot, wasn't it, last week?
And that week. Walk should be out on my channel by the time this episode's up.
Ah, excellent. Well, as I mentioned, we managed to actually get along and catch up with Sam Heughan at the Ride Galloway event, and there'll be more about that later on. But it's really been quite a busy month. We also caught up with Kathleen Croney from Mostly Ghostly. We've got some exciting things coming up with that later. But apart from that, nothing much to report this month that I can report yet. Lots of interesting news from around the region, but I am going to start with something that has me particularly thrilled. The Crichton Royal Archive, which is held at the Ewart in Dumfries and is maintained by the Heritage Service within Dumfries and Galloway Libraries, has been awarded UNESCO status. Now, the Crichton Royal was an asylum which was founded in the 1830s by Elizabeth Crichton, but it had a completely different kind of approach, particularly for the times, towards therapy. There was a big focus on art and creativity and sport, and compassion was an underlying kind of theme to how the hospital worked. And the records of it, basically, there's a lot of records of things written by the patients themselves, and that in itself is unique because you're going back into the 1800s, you're going back into even slightly pre-Victorian times, I think, and at that time, a lot. You had places like Bedlam in London where people paid to watch the patients, which was not very progressive at all. No. But then you had the Crichton where people were they wrote their own newsletters. There was a newsletter called New Moon that started in the 1840s that ran for a very long time. It was basically a platform for the patients themselves to express themselves. So this is a unique record of the voice of people who you just basically don't get in the historical record at all. So it's a wonderful thing for that to have been granted this status, because that will help towards the preservation of it for future generations.
Fantastic. So Crichton nowadays is part of the University of West of Scotland campus?
Yes.
It's a campus of the University of West of Scotland.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And what, it's got the agroecological garden there as well?
Yes, and that's also where Easterbrook Hall is. And as a matter of fact, Dr. Easterbrook was one of the doctors who worked for a long time at the Crichton, doing the revolutionary treatment. So it's quite nice and quite good.
Yeah, when we talked to Abby Morden in our third episode, she was mentioning the work going on there with that they're doing with Propagate.
Yeah.
So,
continuing a bit of that tradition. Now I have that out of the way, which is really, it's fantastic. I'm really chuffed for everyone involved because I actually know people who are involved. But now that I have that out of the way, we've got a video for you, which I have mentioned previously, where we were at the Ride Galloway event at Galloway Distillery, but we'll get to that because here's a wee round up of news from around the region. Right, mostly this is Burns, to be honest with you. So at Ellisland Farm, you can now hear a new poetry tale with recitals from gold and silver medal winners from the 2026 Dumfries and Galloway Burns Association Schools Competition. That's a good mouthful for you. Of poems that Burns actually wrote whilst living at Ellisland. And I think he actually wrote about a quarter of his entire output whilst he was living at Ellisland. So he was quite inspired by the place. And that actually includes Tam O'Shanter, which he wrote there. Inspired locally. And Unseeing Wounded Hair was another one which famously was written at Ellisland. Ellisland also recently secured £270,000 of funding from D&G Council for renovations at the farm. So that's pretty good. They've got lots of good things going on because they've just had all that excitement with Tartan Week and taking Burns's Flute to Tartan Week. I actually spoke to the lady who accompanied Burns's Flute to New York, and she was pretty thrilled with that. And
she was playing at the Ride Galloway.
She was playing at Ride Galloway, as a matter of fact, so they're going to help provide some money for renovation at there, which is really exciting as well for them because they have just recently discovered through a bunch of archaeological, well, not necessarily archaeological, but a bunch of research that they've been doing, that there's a lot more of the farm there than they originally thought that is actually what Burns himself built, and it hasn't been remodelled as much as they thought. They've also found a stand of trees that he will have planted himself, and there's a few things like that. So they're really having quite an exciting time over there. I
remember going out there on a school trip.
Yeah, I've never. I have to confess, I have never been. I would like to go. I would very much like to go, but I've just never gotten myself over there. So I've been to the museum in Dumfries plenty of times.
See, I've not been to the museum in Dumfries, I'd say school trip. I only got vague memories of what it was about, but what year it was or anything. I can't remember, but I do remember we went out there with the school one time, and must have been a couple of years worth of kids going out. And, it was a fascinating wee place. It looked like, obviously, being this region is just a lovely area anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's
so one of these days I will get over there. Absolutely. Sticking with Burns, one last thing. The Big Burns Supper has served up its last season of Bard-themed festival. And it's set to be replaced by an expanded version of the Dumfries and Galloway Carnival. The Carnival incorporates the Northern Lights thing, which last year was quite cool. I know at the Ewart they had a wonderful Peter Pan theme in the windows, which was all pretty and lit up. It looked really good. Done largely with the work from the staff at the Ewart. Well done.
There's another thing that comes from the southwest, Peter Pan, J.M. Barrie.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is little known as well, the Dumfries side of things. But
Moat House Moatbury House is, in fact.
Have they actually managed to rescue it?
No, it has. It's under new owners, and it's in private hands again, I think. Please let us know in the comments below if I'm wrong about that. But yeah, it's no longer owned by the trust that had it before, which is a real shame because the garden there was the inspiration for Neverland. So yeah, we don't do our region justice, and that's why we do this podcast, because we want to let you all know about how wonderful it is. So finally, here is the new video I promised. We recently had the pleasure, as I said, of filming at Galloway Distillery for the inaugural Ride Galloway event, and we got to speak to Sam about it while we were there. It was a glorious weekend for biking, wasn't it? I mean, it was beautiful.
Beautiful.
It was just before it got really hot. So give us a wee shout out in the comments as well if you were there at the event with Sam. And here's a wee taste of the weekend for you.
back in Galloway. Well, here we are. I'm leaning against the Galloway stone, our lovely bit of granite here from Galloway. The Galloway Distillery. It's been an amazing day. The sun is shining. It obviously always shines in Galloway. That's a lie. Yesterday, the ride down was the Odyssey. It was torrential rain, and I stopped to get petrol as I got towards the Galloway Forest, and the midges got into my helmet and got in my ear, and as I was riding, this midge kept going from one ear to the next. I don't know why. So it was tough, but it was all worth it, because look at this. It's beautiful, isn't it? It feels like Galloway is shining for us. It's been an amazing turnout. Yeah, really happy to be back.
Do you want to tell us a bit about the inspiration for the rally?
Yes, Ride Galloway. Well, honestly, it's a kind of combination of two things that I love, which is Galloway. You know, I was born and raised here, not far from here, in Balmaclellan, New Galloway, and lived by the shores of Loch Ken, which I drove past last night. I passed where I used to live, and Loch Ken is an amazing spot. I saw the water inflatables out there for people, and they can go and swimming there and paddle boarding. I don't think there was anyone out yesterday because the weather was so bad, but it's such an amazing landscape. There's so much to explore, so much history, great produce, and a great character that Galloway's got. The people are amazing. And then, of course, riding. You know, I've ridden all over the world. I've been very lucky to ride in some cool spots, from Mexico to Pensacola to Europe, and but actually some of the best roads are actually here in the southwest of Scotland.
It's a great route, as a matter of fact. I'm sure it'll be lots of fun to drive. Are you doing this again next year? And what will you change?
We are absolutely looking to do this as an annual thing. It's not just for motorbike riders, though it's a great way to see Galloway. We try to encourage people to ride the Galloway, which is slow and steady, and enjoy the experience rather than, you know, flying through it. You know, there's so many great places to stop off, so we want people to stop and take it all in. And yeah, it'd be great if it was an annual event. Today's been really lovely. We've had local musicians, Devon Kaysen. We've had some local folk musicians. We had some reenactment from Combat International, who work on Outlander, amongst other things. And yes, we've got other locals, businesses here as well represented. So yeah, we'd love to encourage more of the local businesses to get involved.
What does Galloway mean to you?
What does Galloway mean to me? Galloway is home for me, and then to expand on that, I mean, it's a place where if you're not from here, hopefully you'll come and experience it and perhaps feel at home, or perhaps discover something new. There's so much, as I said, to explore. You'll have a warm welcome, a Galloway breeze. It's an amazing, from the coastline, which you can see across the island, and on a good day, the Isle of Man and the Northumberland coast, to, you know, the Galloway Forest and the Merrick and Bruce's Stone, and great history, as yourself you know all about. But essentially it's where I was born and raised, and certainly when I come back it's always nice to revisit.
I know we had a lot of fun that day, actually.
Gorgeous day. He was so lucky as well. As he mentioned, like the day before, riding
yeah,
down in the rain, and I was just like, I was just looking at the weather and going like, is it going to hold out? And then
and suddenly
perfect weather.
Blessed.
Mm-hmm.
We interrupt your normal programming to bring you some late-breaking Corepath news. Angela and I are going to be leading a walk up Waterside Hill on Sunday 23rd of August as part of the GCat and Catstrand's Land Notes Festival. Meet at Dalry Town Hall at 9:30am. Tickets available from the Catstrand. Link will be in the description below.
Join us for stories, breathtaking views, and a thoroughly good walk up Waterside Hill.
And now back to the rest of the Corepath news.
So moving on to Corepaths. In our second episode, when we spoke to Bob Peace, we talked about the mountain rescue, and he's worked with the mountain rescue across the region, including Moffat Mountain Rescue.
I think that might have been his first mountain rescue.
I think it was his
correct
first
me
one.
if I'm wrong in the
Yes.
comments below.
Just in the news this week, and we want to say congratulations to James Coles, the leader of the Moffat Mountain Rescue, who has been awarded an MBE in the recent King's Birthdays honours.
Very good for his services to mountain rescue.
Indeed, yes.
Very good.
Congratulations to him and all the mountain rescue team, who just do an amazing job keeping people safe on the mountains and the hills.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. What else have you got for us? Anything exciting going on?
Don't have any actual walking news this month, but there is exciting news for the cyclists and cycling in the region. There is a new route shared by Cycling UK, who are a charity. It's the first one entirely in Scotland, I believe, and it's the Galloway gravel itinerary, which starts off. The map's pretty small, so I can't tell exactly, but it seems to start off just outside Dumfries, possibly just this side of the Niff, maybe. I'm keeping it in Galloway. I couldn't swear to it. It might probably go into Dumfries, but you'll be able to find out. And it goes across, basically the Stewartry mostly. It seems to only just cross the Cree into Wigtonshire, which is a shame because, you know, there's a lot of beautiful places in Wigtonshire. Maybe a lack of gravel routes out there, maybe, I don't know.
Glentrool?
Yeah, I think it might go up through Glentrool.
Right.
Which is kind of the bit, but even much Glentrool's kind of this side of the Cree.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
So, and it literally runs through there. So, I think that's the bit where it's just the other side, because the route that I remember, having been out there for a while, was the other side of the river. But it does look like it'll be a fantastic route. I'm assuming it's going to take advantage of some of the routes, like the gravel trail that goes from Clashingshaw's Dam down to Gatehouse.
Yeah.
Now, this all is basically built on from the Gatehouse gravel races, which I've forgotten the correct name for right now. But for the last several years, there's been an international race event happening around the Gatehouse area doing the gravel.
We'll link it below.
Yes, we'll link it below. And so, it's exciting stuff. As somebody that I'm hiking a lot more, but I grew up cycling across this region. Right, I have actually cycled right across the region, so...
Yeah, you know what it's like.
I just haven't done much of it recently.
Yeah.
There is plenty of great cycling places in the region. We've got the Seven Stains, the N7 national cycling route runs through the region. Yeah, we're very fortunate for the cycling world, and when I was a kid, we'd just go off into the hills and cycle around the place and through the forestry, and so if you're into cycling, I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's
205 miles, 330 kilometres. I've got it written down.
Yes. So 330 kilometres, is that?
Yeah, 330 kilometres in modern money.
Yes. Definitely get your money's worth going around that route. And again, we're biased, but this region's gorgeous, so the views are just going to be incredible. So enjoy it while you're out there as well.
In fact, actually, if you're really lucky cycling around that area, you may also get to see golden eagles. So, definitely worth it, I would say. Yeah. Okay, well, in that case, we maybe want to move on to talking about our guest, McNabb Laurie. You want to tell us a little bit about McNabb before we...
So McNabb Laurie is from Galloway. He's actually our first guest that was born in Galloway. He was been away for a while. First time I sort of came across him was when he was doing the Galloway Glens project, which has done a lot of fantastic work, did a lot of fantastic work around the region. Yeah. When it was a 5-year project and they set up a lot of things. More on that when we talk to McNabb. He now works for G Woodlands, again, just doing some very interesting projects around the region.
We spoke to him last episode with the storyteller, which I'm going to get back up to visit her because we've had some exciting weather. I want to see how she's survived that.
I've been up round once, and I always kind of get up there and just look across, and you just see her looking across the glens.
Nice.
It is a nice sight.
It is. It's a good spot.
So
here's our interview with McNabb.
Welcome, McNabb Laurie, to the podcast.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, absolutely no bother. I'm sure it'll be a pleasure, in fact. So I'm going to dive right in here. I want to know about your earliest impressions of Galloway, your earliest memories.
Wow. The enigma that is McNabb Laurie. You're really getting under the skin here. Yes, this is what the people want to hear. So I grew up I grew up near Palnackie, and then so I went to Palnackie Primary School. I think I had a gloriously, blissfully happy childhood is how I remember it. And I remember I went away to school at 8, I went away to Crofton up near Money Ive, so I used to come back. In my head, it was very far away, Money Ive from Palnackie. That was a good day and a half drive or something like that between the two.
Yeah,
so I feel like I very much left the wilds of Nithsdale to come back to Stewartry. It felt like a real change. So so my earliest memory of Dumfries and Galloway, I think probably we went so many things. We used to go swimming up in Bittle Reservoir, and I remember that we used to put deck chairs in a motorbike trailer, which we'd put behind the car, and my parents would drive the car, and we'd sit open top in a motorbike trailer on a deck chair, driving through up the valleys of Bittle, which I think probably is illegal for about 15 different reasons now, but that's probably one of my earliest memories, because it felt slightly like it was, you could get away with anything. It was brilliant.
That's quite an unusual way to get about.
Absolutely. And now, when you look at Bittle Reservoir, there was the big thing about how crayfish in it, and there's lots of interest in this and there's fishing angles, and I never picked up on any of that. All I saw was that where you could go swimming on a hot summer or something. It was very free.
That's one of, when you're a child, that's how you remember things. Very much. Just how you interact with it, you don't really care about anything else.
Definitely some beautiful places around Galloway to do swimming as well.
I think it's turning into the serious mark you've made it in the world when you've got somewhere to swim. There's a body of water to swim in. It's turned on a hot day. There is nothing like it as well. But there's money's no object. You're like, I just want to go somewhere where I can swim. It is so
hot.
It's such a special thing. I think.
So it's always a Highbridge Kent. That's just a good place to go.
And it started off under the suspension bridge.
Well, yes, there was that.
The Southern Upland Way, just by Darragh. I was kind of jumping off that bridge as a child.
Not so much anymore.
No, they cut off the bits that we used to stand on.
You used to be able to see, there was one particular railing on the suspension bridge that was always rusty, because all the kids standing there, obviously dripping wet, having already done it, so they rusted. They made it rust.
I'd love to be the engineer assessing that to say, what's happening? Something's odd here. It's failing at this one particular point.
Why? That's exactly why. No, that's what we used to do.
Can you tell us a bit about your life and work experience in Galloway?
I grew up in Galloway and then went away to school, went away to university, and then spent 10 years working across the UK for various sort of corporate job, ended up in various sort of corporate sectors. And so I can't help but answer that question by saying I've had this sort of start away and then back thing, which I think it brought so many positives in the fact you do look at things specially and differently, and you do, in many ways, I don't know whether you almost need to go away occasionally to come back and appreciate the brilliance of Galloway. Because brace yourself, but there are some flaws to living in Dumfries and Galloway. There are some flaws. No. There are some flaws. And I think sometimes people say, what's it like living in Dumfries and Galloway? And it's just a question of weighing up positives and negatives. And I think the positives outweigh the negatives, but let's not say there aren't any negatives to it. And I think having been away and lived across England, particularly Manchester way, but travelling around England, has been quite, I think, looking back at Galloway, it was, every time I came here, I was on holiday. Yes. So I had money in my pocket because I earned money elsewhere, so I didn't have to work here. It was just brilliant. Holiday, why did this be amazing? And then when you move back here, and it's February, and it's dark, and everything's shut, and then you start thinking, this is actually what it's like. And it's quite interesting when you're here and people, because I've got friends now who still live in the city and have fancy jobs and things, and they come here and they just think, well, this is just brilliant. You just get to gather around. This is amazing, and everywhere's open. You can walk everywhere, and it's amazing. But there is that's I've got so many complex angles of how I see Galloway because I've been away and come back, and then the Kinnairds in Dalbeatty, the late shop. I remember saying to one of my friends, that's the late shop. That's open till 10. And the comment was, well, what happens if you want something after 10? And I was like, well, you anticipate that need and you get it for 10. And they were like, well, what about milk? And I'm like, no, it's not the product. It's the principle that things shut. Whereas in Manchester, you click your fingers, people bring something to the door at 2 o'clock in the morning. Nothing makes any sense. So I feel like that's these are the things I love about being here. Is the sort of People say, how are you finding it living in Dumfries and Galloway? And don't ask me, ask my wife. She's from Manchester. I'm ready to adjust back into it. I think to a fresh pair of eyes, it's probably rather more bit of a jump more than anything else. I think probably.
Something was quite different from Glasgow, which is where I came from when I moved down here. But I moved down here to Collanity, so that was when I was 11. So.
I never went home. No, I never went back. No.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
There's a perception. I mean, the living on the moon thing, it really does feature in Dumfries and Galloway, and you speak to people, Dumfries and Galloway, where in Ireland is that, is the comment that people say. And you think, well, it's not that Dumfries and Galloway has an image problem, it has no image. It has no awareness. It's not like it has a bad reputation, it's just got no reputation. Exactly. And so, I try to tell myself that I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I try to tell myself I'm happy with my life decisions and my rather odd career decisions to move. When I moved back up here, we had a bit of money saved up, and so we said, right, we won't get a job for 6 months, we'll just re-engage ourselves in Dumfries and Galloway. And then, of course, day 2, I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I've quit my job, this is the most maddest thing ever. And so I went to, brilliantly went to Loch Arthur in Beeswing, who very kindly gave me a job. And the comment was, McNabb, I hear you're managing Loch Arthur now. And I'm like, no, I'm not managing, I'm waitering, I'm on minimum wage, I'm 10 years older than everyone else, I'm knackered all the time, my knees are sore. I mean, there was an idea of, but I sort of knew I wanted to be back here. And so if you think about these big life career things too much, then you just never do them. So you have to sort of sometimes just do them.
You just have to dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very grateful to my wife, who has agreed to move here with me, because I'm very aware that it's been a big ask, and for me, I'm coming back for all the complex reasons that I love Dumfries and Galloway, and for her it was probably a bit of a jump into the dark. So I'm very grateful for that.
I hadn't even considered that perspective, because like you, I've been away, come back, still not fully back.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's just kind of switching.
Yeah, and do you work away, don't you?
I've got a place in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Plus, my family's down here, so I come back and help out with the family stuff.
But I wonder if part of your mind is like working is elsewhere, and it's like, come back here, I'm back at Dumfries and Galloway, and part of that is maybe you don't have to...
Definitely, the bulk of my work life has been in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm working down here, it's more a relaxed kind of...
Yeah.
Whereas I hadn't even considered the kind of somebody from not from this area and how they'd see it. It's like, for me, it's literally just come back and it's like, right, okay, I'll switch mode into rural from the urban.
Yeah.
So, as you say, you've got to prepare. You're like, okay, I'm running low on milk, I better get down to shop before it shuts. We now actually have a late shop in Dalry.
Well, brilliant. Well, there's a brilliant... the pizzeria in Castle Douglas has got a laminated sign on the wall that says, ask us about home delivery, and then someone's written in handwriting on the bottom, not Corsic. Which is just brilliant, because we want the business, but we're not mad. We're not going to go to Corsic. And I've never felt, in a strange way, prouder to live in Corsic, because there's a sort of when I used to work in Dumfries, people say, wow, you come all this way today from Corsic. I'm like, it's 25 minutes it's taken me to get, but it's and the phrase people use is, up in Corsic, you live up in Corsic, and there's something sort of inherently out of the way in Corsic. I don't know. So I'm quite, not only do we live in Dumfries and Galloway, I live out of the main beats of it all. So I think that's good. Does that bear any relation to the question you asked 40 minutes ago?
The Glenkens itself, we both went to Cumbria Academy, and we were from up in the hills.
Except I wasn't, because I always got away with, they'd say to me, hillbilly, I'm from Glasgow.
Did you hang out with the other Glenkens kids then? Were you slightly apart? Or was it
a bit and a bit not? We tended to mix in quite well.
There wasn't that many of us for a start. My year was tiny from that. It was.
Oh, your year would have been smaller than my year.
There was 15 of us in the year in total.
Right. Yeah.
Of which I think 7 or 8 of us went on to the academy.
Right. That's tiny.
Yeah. So it was a case of we kind of see each other, and we'd be quite often we sit in classes near each other, but not enough of us.
And you weren't aware of differences then, or you weren't aware of othering or anything like that?
There was kind of the banter.
Yeah.
But there
always get
wasn't the hillbilly comments and things like that.
I spoke to a teacher in Dalry. This was a few years ago. I don't know anymore, but they used to teach in Dumfries and then they taught in Dalry. Oh, yes. And I said, do you pick up on any difference in it? And she said, in Dalry, I've never had to tell the children to put a coat on because they always look out the window before they leave and see what the weather's like and dress accordingly. Which she said in Dumfries, you get outside and they're all standing in the t-shirts thinking, oh, it's raining. I didn't realise it was raining. And I thought that was quite interesting, because maybe the children are slightly more aware of you're going outside. You need to put some proper clothes on or something. I don't know. But,
I suppose we all spent a lot more time outside as well.
Yeah.
When I was growing up in Paisley, we did spend time outside, and we did go swimming in the local river, but that wasn't a very good idea. That's all I have to say about it. The White Cart is actually one of the most polluted rivers in Scotland, and that was the river that went nearby where I lived. But you don't really play outside in the same way. You only do that on a nice day. Yeah. In the same way, and if you are going out, it's all sort of like, right, we're going to the park, so then that's organised.
Sort of loose out is very hard. I remember when I first moved back up here, I had a meeting in Crossmichael, and I parked in Crossmichael, and the organiser of the meeting came out and said it was a really hot day, and they said, oh, you make sure you want to leave your windows open, it's a really hot day. And I looked around and all the cars had their windows open because it was a really hot day, and I thought anywhere else in the world you'd be saying close your windows because it's you parked your car. And I thought how amazing to say, oh, you want to shout, it's going to be hot in your car. I thought what a brilliant change that is from security of lock your car is, no, careful, I noticed you've left your windows shut. Are you okay? Is everything okay?
It's a huge difference, that isn't it? It's one of the many little pleasures of living in a quiet and
unforgotten
small community.
Just to reinforce what you were saying just before about people saying like Galloway, I've had that in Edinburgh.
Absolutely.
Where's that again? I've heard of it.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's an awful comment of I've been all over the world. I've never been to Dumfries and Galloway. It's like, well, it's such a tough thing. I went to build on that, and I'm sorry if I've told you this before, Andy. A couple of years ago, I went to it was in Perth, so it took me 2 hours to get to, and we all had to sit in a circle and had to introduce ourselves, what we were doing. And the man before me stood up and he said, oh, I'm from Orkney and this is the project I'm doing. And everyone said, oh, that's very interesting. And then I stood up and said, I'm from Dumfries and Galloway. And the organiser said, oh, have you come all this way today? And I thought, he's from Orkney. He came on a plane. But it has taken us, he just popped down from Orkney. And then at the end of the day, McNabb, you better get going if you're going back to Galloway. I was like, it's taken me 2 hours to get here. But there's a brilliant perception that Dumfries and Galloway is so much further away. And oh my goodness, you've come all the way from Dumfries and Galloway. I thought, there's something really interesting there about how we've distanced ourselves somehow from it or something like that. But,
it's almost like I don't know, you go through some sort of tunnel to Galloway, which takes you a couple of hours through the Galloway Hills to get in.
And you come back in and it's 1973 or something.
Yes, this is probably slightly better than New Zealand, but not much.
We've obviously talked about like growing up here. What are your favourite Galloway places?
It's been quite interesting. We've got friends who come and visit us, and we've got this lovely habit. They've got kids the same age as my kids, and so they come up every summer. And it's been quite interesting to see where do you take people is always quite interesting. It's always quite a good mark of where you like, or are you trying to show them things that they wouldn't normally see, or are you trying to things that you like. So we've done Raiders Road, which is quite interesting because I've seen some comments online about, oh, it's terrible, this is a road, my car's all dirty as a result, and how do I get up here and things. But I quite like it. It seems to fit this odd niche of being able to feel like you're really getting away from it all, but also you've got kids in the car, you can drive the bulk of the way, and it is. So I would say it's probably between inland sites like Raiders Road, a couple of walks around Corsic, up Glacesters Hill. I go up Glacesters Hill so much, up behind Corsic, and then the beaches. So Red Hay, Knockencairn, and getting out into sort of Rockcliffe along there. Something about when I first moved back here, I said I really want to live by the sea, but it turns out everyone else really wants to live by the sea as well, and their purchasing power might exceed my purchasing power. So I've decided I really want to live in inland, is what I've decided. But I think there is something about the sea here,
we're never far away from it, though.
And I get this thing about the light. You know, the artists came here for the quality of the light. I really get it. And that first memory of driving up to the Bittle Reservoir, it's the light that I remember the most. And I don't think I really appreciated it when I was young, but now I realise it's like a quality of light thing. What on earth am I talking about? How am I measuring it? Why is that? Is it totally imagined? It's something about, I don't know, but there's something about the quality of the light here on a sunny summer's evening. I just think around there, Castle Douglas, Dalbeatty Way is just unlike anything else. I know. Yeah, Cuckoo actually. Yeah, and now people come here for the quality of the darkness in the Dark Sky Park. It's like something about quality of Dumfries and Galloway. How do you measure or quantify it? I don't know.
That's quite an interesting question. As someone who dabbles in photography, one thing I can tell you is one of the things that makes Dumfries and Galloway great is that it quite often goes from being raining to being sunny really quickly, and when you've still got that rain in the atmosphere, that's when you get the best quality of light for taking photographs.
Oh, really?
So it might have something to do with the
climatic,
rain.
possibly.
Yeah, it might be climatic. Well, I'd almost swear it was climatic one way or another,
Really?
but because that it's about the light going through the atmosphere, isn't it?
And there's no consistent Dumfries and Galloway climate. So I was in the Rins of Galloway last week, and everything's out. Everything is like 3 weeks ahead of everything here. It's unbelievable. And it's only an hour long. You wonder what is going on to make that microclimate that end is so different from this place.
I think that's one of the things that makes Dumfries and Galloway, definitely, is that variety. You get all those different kinds of places, and it doesn't take very long as you go along the A75 to get to the Machers, where suddenly everything is flat. Absolutely.
And I'm so aware, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much over this, so aware that Dumfries and Galloway is a 1976 construct of local authority reorganisation. Dumfries and Galloway, you've got Langham and Dromore, and the only thing that links them is a unified bins recycling schedule. I mean, there's nothing. There is totally different landscapes in terms of. You look up towards Glasgow over there, and this way you look down towards Carlisle from Langham. It's so different in terms of landscape, in terms of driving forward. I'm very aware that Dumfries and Galloway, by its very name, is a sort of. It's almost like misc. It's like bits. They've got Perthshire, and then just call it Dumfries and Galloway and others. Let's just bodge them together because it's so different. Annandale and Estelle across to Wigtonshire. Yeah. It's almost outrageous to try and see them as a coherent thing because there's such stories and such variety, and I feel such connection. When I came back here, I wanted to be in the Stewartry. I grew up in the Stewartry. I really wanted to be in the Stewartry, and you go to places like Eaglesfield or Canonby and places, it just feels totally different as a landscape.
So I went filming at Flute for the libraries just after lockdown, and Flute over by Anne, it feels completely different.
Absolutely, it's almost like Norfolk almost, isn't it?
It's brick houses for one, which is just nothing like. I mean, there's a few in Castle Douglas, but that's to do with the railways. But so the houses are all completely different. But they're also different sort of shape and size, and it is very much.
And I've got it in my head that I'm always going through there to go, go through there. It becomes, every time you do that, it becomes less of a destination. It's a going through place. Yes. I think it's been quite. My children go to Springhome Primary School. Springhome all my life has been something you go through at a very relevant speed, obviously. Whereas now my children go to school in Springhome. I'm like, oh, there's a street light out there. You want to go on to the council about that? And And I'm like, this has become a real destination for me now. Whereas before it's always been a pass-through place.
Yes, absolutely. It is amazing just how much variety there is. Of course, the other thing about when they made Dumfries and Galloway was an 11th hour decision not to include Carrick as well.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. How interesting. Yes. What was the thinking? Is it just too big, too remote, too far away?
Carrick is traditionally part of Galloway.
Yeah.
And that was the thinking. But then I think they looked at it and they said, but then what we're actually adding, we're adding more space, but also a lot more disparate kind of poverty and things like that, because a lot of that coast, it's more, I suppose it's more like Stranraer, and it was more unbalancing and it was a bigger area to cover. Yeah. So they decided to put it in with South Ayrshire, which I'm sure rebalanced the demographic of South Ayrshire quite considerably.
That's absolutely fascinating. And now, so this is why I'm so interested in the entity that is Dumfries and Galloway, because it is an administratively legal process of getting it established as an entity, but you're badging together different heritage, different background, different landscape, different everything in that. I think that's absolutely fascinating. I still talk about the Stewartry. I still try and say I live in the Stewartry, but it's even 20 years' time, Stewartry is going to be the courts in Kirkcudbright. I feel like that was one of the last sort of Stewartry things, and now that's gone. It feels like everything's now Dumfries as a. It's thank goodness we have the council depots. I feel like that keeps the thinking in a relatively area-based thing.
We organise in such a way as that the libraries of the Stewartry are one region as well, so that still exists in the library.
Keep it going, yeah.
It's because even we were actually talking about it fairly recently. It's I'm assuming you were born in Cresswell.
Yes, yeah.
So,
although the last one, the previous one, the one behind the Quick Fit one, the actual Cresswell. Sorry, yes,
yeah. So we were born in Dumfries, but grew up in Galloway. Whereas nowadays, everybody's actually born in Galloway, or in the ancient border of Galloway.
Of course, yes, a good point. Yeah.
I'm not actually sure where nowadays they changed Dumfries into Galloway.
Yeah.
It used to be Myth was the border.
Yeah, which is definitely on the right side of the. Sorry, not the right side. Sorry, but this side of the.
Ashton was part of Galloway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have Dumfries on the other side, but nowadays it kind of always just Dumfries.
So everybody's a Gallovidian now.
Yeah.
Well,
I had one child born in the new Cresswell, which is up at Mountain Hall, and then the younger one was born in the new hospital, and it's called Cresswell Mother and Baby is the new one. And I said, is it not going to keep the name Cresswell? And they said, there was talk about keeping the name Cresswell, but it becomes even more of a historical irrelevance now, that they're all just called standardised as Mother and Baby. And I thought there's something interesting even in there. It's like, why on earth were people calling the Cresswell unit far away from Cresswell? Because it was the history of it. But it's this, that I'm always concerned about this slight homogenisation of Scotland, which happens sometimes, is that you get everything's, and that great, what was that Billy Connolly thing about how they reorganised the police forces, and they put the one that has Loch Lomond as Sweeping Glens and the Trossachs in it. What are we going to call you? We'll call you Central. And he was like, that's just, what a great way to take all the colour and history and boil it down. I was like, there's something I'm really aware of, is Dumfries and Galloway. I really want to try and keep the local stories or local connections to it, because it's easy. Once you've homogenised, you can't unhomogenise, is the risk. So this is the great thing about what you guys are doing, is fighting that homogenisation. It's very good.
Absolutely. We live in a region rich in stories, as you know. Do you have a favourite piece of local folklore? Since I love folklore.
We've been on a bit of a witchcraft journey in the last year or so. I don't know if I've mentioned that. And then last week I went to that talk about the Elspeth McEwen book, which was really, really interesting. I grew up near Palnackie, and there was a cave in the woods which we called the Smuggler's Cave, and for some reason I had a connection when I was young with the story, the Sawney Bean story. Do you know Sawney Bean?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I don't know whether I got it at the right age or something, I don't know, but it always scared me more than anything else. And I think it was probably where I learned about this idea of myth, because I think I was probably at an age when you're like, did that happen? It's like, well, this is the story of it. And no, I need to know. I want the facts. And now I think it takes a while to relax into that place of these are the stories and tales of it. I think probably so.
What is, I don't know, I actually know that one.
What, Sawney Bean?
He a cannibal who had an extended family, but was it Ash? I don't know.
It was Carrickshire. I have actually been up. We did try to go and do a filming of the Sawney Bean Cave one day. In fact, it was on the day of the Queen's funeral, and we got like.
Did you wait for that moment?
No, it was just it was a good day. It was a lovely day.
It was a good day.
Yeah, apart from the funeral, it was a good day. It was just a beautiful day to be out and about, so we did a kind of a tour where we did several videos. But we got as far as the Carrick Coast where Sawney Bean's Cave is, and we were like, right, okay, so we have to go across this bit and down there. And we went into the grass, and literally within about 5 metres, because it was a lovely hot day, there was about 3 or 4 adders, and it was just like, if we walk through all of that grass, the chance of standing on an adder is extremely high, so we didn't go. But Sawney Bean, it's not entirely sure whether it was real. That's one of the things about folklore. But he lived in this cave, and he had an extended family of children and grandchildren.
Of relative inbredness or something.
Extremely, apparently. And apparently his wife was a witch from Perthshire called Black Alice as well, which was an interesting thing that I learned relatively recently. That's almost part of the old story. But they were discovered because they attempted to attack a wedding party for dinner. And the wedding, I think there was the bride, one of the two of them managed to get away on a horse and report, and then that's how they were discovered. But they lived there for several generations.
Sounds like that's come straight out of, or been inspired a certain author. R. Martin in the Red Wedding.
The Red Wedding's a number of things all kind of mashed together, but it's also, if you've ever seen the movie The Hills Have Eyes, Wes Craven film, that was based on the Sonneborn legend, which is why it's a horrible story about people who eat people. Yeah.
So no, that's probably. I mean, there's a few come to mind. The witchcraft thing's been very interesting because I'm so interested in how the witches, as we call them now, often were healers, and they're held up with an element of almost putting them on a pedestal. Say, wow, if you've got an ill child, take them to this person. This person can do great things with herbs and things. And then when it doesn't work, they lose the room, and everyone goes, "Oh, I'm so." You see it now. You see people. It's what's that great phrase about a person is rational, people are not. And I think that's so true. You get a gang of people like that. Is that rationalness gets out the window? It's
proud mentality.
Definitely.
That's it, exactly. And whilst we're on sort of like that, sort of on that track, what particular, now we were talking about witches, and the thing about witches is there's a folklore angle to witches, and there's a historical angle to witches. There's the facts of it, and there's the stories of it. And using that as a segue, what kind of history, actually, rather than folklore? Is there a particular historical thing that interests you, or something that's grabbed you? I mean, you're talking about being fascinated by Sonny Bean as a child.
Yeah, I mean, I've got slightly obsessed with the Napoleonic Wars through most of my reading life, probably. Has been reading and then returning to Napoleonic Wars, and I called my son Wellesley. My son's middle name is Wellesley after the Duke of Wellington, and so I'm a little bit obsessed with this idea of I don't know what it's like, marsh or sort of. I'm not describing myself very well, but it's how someone like Wellington there was no order of hierarchy above him. He had to write a letter to someone in London when he wanted an order of what to do next. Like, all roads led to him, and so I was so taken by this idea of leadership. Whereas nowadays you can always speak to someone else. You can always get someone on the phone or something like that. Whereas really these were people's lives in hand. So I've been slightly taken with this. The Napoleonic angle, and we did some work with Galloway Glens about talking about what is the Napoleonic history in Dumfries and Galloway, and it seems to vary massively on who you speak to, because people say that there were dams and river embankments that were built by Napoleonic era prisoners of war, and then no, McNabb, that's a load of rubbish, that could never happen because of this and this. And so there's a bit of a gap in my head of what I'd like to learn more about, which is how, I mean, we hear amazing stories about how people from remote farms became awesome sort of presence in various battles and various medals and awards, soldiering awards, and it was Dumfries and Galloway was a great recruiting place for these armies that were sent abroad, and I'm so interested that Dumfries and Galloway it probably shows very little mark of where these people went, but they featured in the bigger picture of UK or Scottish history and things. So that's probably something I'd like to learn more about. Is Dumfries and Galloway, has it been a recruiting ground through history? And was it Alan of Galloway, I think, was the only Scot present at the signing of the Magna Carta. He's from Tongland, and so Galloway wasn't off the map then. It was seen as quite important in various things then. Was that just because it was a source of
sources? It's quite interesting because the City of London, the very first place, once it couldn't quite be self-sustaining as most cities actually used to be, the very first place that it got anything from that was outside was Galloway for cattle.
Oh, really?
So people used to drove cattle all the way down to London to sell them because they didn't own their own cattle anymore.
I'm so struck by there are some big houses in Dumfries and Galloway that have been built using money made elsewhere. And it's almost like Dumfries and Galloway doesn't exist is not a self-sustaining.
Yes.
It doesn't exist by itself. It is people went away, made money through various ways, and then put money back into the region. Because if you looked at it like that, the number of people we have locally, you wouldn't expect that many estates or big houses or architecture or construction and things. But it's because of what was drawing them back here after they'd made their money or something. I don't know. That's the normal way it is, though. Is you grow, you move away, you make your fortune, and then you move back. It's just I cut out that making the fortune step of my life cycle. But the principle is that
Although certainly William Douglas, who established Castle Douglas, he went away to the Americas and made his money there. In a lot of interesting and varietous ways. He did a lot of trade with the Native Americans, but he also made a lot of money out of ships that were sailing under letters of marque from the US Navy, because that was the only way that they could protect the coast at the time, because it was just after the Wars of Independence, and it was very difficult. Their navy just basically wasn't big enough, so they were just like, oh yes, you can pirate up and down the coast, that's fine. So he probably made quite a lot of money plundering English ships and French ships and and things going up and down that coast. And then he decided he wanted a legacy, and his legacy was to come back to here and build Castle Douglas and Newton Stewart, or a lot of Newton Stewart, build up the industry in both of those. And he made an awful lot of money, like maybe worth millions, hundreds of millions in modern money. And so it was all about legacy.
Interesting. I feel if you were plotting on a graph the remoteness of Dumfries and Galloway, I don't think it's been a flat line. I feel like we were remote, and then train line comes, Galloway Hydro Scheme, National Grid Act that means you can generate electricity anywhere and use it anywhere. Suddenly, someone like Dumfries and Galloway becomes much more, I don't know, approachable or connectable. And then in many ways, has that actually retreated possibly in the last 50, 70 years? It makes you wonder, even things like they're closing the railway and things, they all contribute to, in many ways, I feel like, I hate the line of, we're the forgotten corner of Scotland, but it does feel like that sometimes. I feel like it's like a victim thing of, we're the forgotten corner of Scotland. I sort of quite like so many parts of the fact that we're out of I wonder whether actually in the last 50 years, with changes that have been made, have we got slightly less accessible than we were even before? It's not a flat line, is it? It's,
the hydro, the forestry, these industries that used to employ so many people. And now this area specifically, there's a lot of people involved in both of those industries. Whereas nowadays, it's
everything's
the hydro's managed from up north.
Absolutely, there's a control unit up in Glasgow.
Glenley does the overnight, but
and
one person.
And Garroch Estate used to grow flowers that were sold at Covent Garden Market in London, and they went on the train at Mossdale. I think this idea of growing flowers, putting them on the train at Mossdale, and them going to London is just laughable nowadays. It's absolutely ridiculous. But how do we value things is different, but also the changeability of accessibility to the region, I think, is you wouldn't dream if you were growing flowers for London. You'd be in Hertfordshire or Holland probably, or whatever it is. But it's the idea of having anything from Dumfries and Galloway that was hurried to London because this is where it comes from. It's
like Abby, who we spoke to in the last third episode. That was it. Third episode. She was saying that Wigtonshire used to have lots and lots of vegetable growers when the trains were there, because they could
get it out quickly.
And they could get it out. But then when the trains went, most of the vegetable farming just disappeared. So
well, at the moment, 2026, when you're watching this in 20 years' time, 2026, they're talking about putting bypasses around Crockett Ford and Spring Home. And I mentioned that because I think they were talking about it in the 1980s as well. So it's quite nice. You might be watching this now and this is laughable that there isn't a bypass or whatever it is. But there's such an interesting discussion about whether we should we actually take that money and put it into this question of rail, because we have this amazing Borders Railway that's been built. And everyone's saying, wow, people can get up to Edinburgh, and it's so much. It just changes the whole region. I went to a meeting in Stowe Stowe on the, I can't remember what it's called. Is it called Stowe? In the Borders, and there's a train station at it, and everyone there was on the train.
Yes.
And the opening line was, "And what train are you getting back?" And everyone was drinking. It was the middle of the day because they're getting the train. "Oh, McNabb, what train are you getting back?" And I said, "No, I live in Dumfries and Galloway, so I've had to drive here, and I'm going to have to drive back home again." And I thought how it changes everything to have connectivity like that. It's just
massive,
incredible.
yes.
So,
And of course, they had a meeting, and there is talk. Once again, there periodically is of reinstating the train line. It would be good. I think it would be a massive boost to the region.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, elephant in the room. I've had it a lot where it's like, oh, you're not Scottish, with my accent. You've grown up in the region. You've obviously still got a hint of the Glasgow accent.
Just a wee bit, pal.
Exactly. And McNabb, your accent, and I'm assuming that you said you went to Crofton.
Yeah.
Is that a product of that?
Well, I've just got so much to say about my accent. So you might not have noticed, but I have a rather interesting Galloway accent. Galloway circa 1760 or something, I don't know. Probably something absolutely. So, yeah, I don't know what to say. I've just always spoken like this. And the strange thing is that other people, you immerse them in something and they sort of pick up on bits of it. And I just don't seem to do it for some reason. It doesn't make any sense. It's almost like because I'm always on transmit. Yes. I don't ever actually listen to what's going on. But I don't know how to explain it because I have seen other people who have moved here and aren't from here at all. They've picked up more of an accent than I have. And then my daughter, I've got two children, my daughter, Springhome Primary, has got a Springhome accent. And it comes through as a proper local sort of Galloway accent. Yeah. And it's just the most special, brilliant thing. And I'm so glad about it. And yet my son, 2 years younger, seems to have none of it. Absolutely nothing. He talks basically like I do. And I don't. So I'm just so intrigued because in many ways, I think I should probably by now have just faked a local accent and just have done with it. But no, instead, every single person I meet must think, what the bloody hell, what is he talking? How is it? And when I hear myself, I'm like, why does anyone take me seriously in anything I say at all? Or something? It's incredible. So I don't really know. I don't know how to justify it. I'm aware of it, and I see sometimes I'm in environments when I can tell people or something, but I don't pick up on it locally. In many ways, I actually pick up on it more when I'm elsewhere, and I say Dumfries and Galloway, and they say, yeah, but you don't live there with that accent, do you? And I'm like, oh, I do live in Dumfries. So I don't know. Everyone's very tolerant, but it's given me a new angle on things because there are some people who absolutely do define you by your accent. And so if I walk in, they think I've got some trust fund or I'm visiting from Hertfordshire or something. And so I quite like being able to confound expectations a little bit. I was asked to do the Toast of Galloway at the Dalbeattie Burns night last year. And I said, I'm really not the right person. Like, there's so many forums. I'm flexible chameleon, but there are so many forums I'm able to handle. One of them is not Dalbeattie Burns night. It's 80 men in a room, drunk. Yes. Am I the person to give a hilarious speech at that particular time? But I don't know. Yeah, I'm just very, very aware of it. And there's something very interesting about accents in Dumfries and Galloway with our proximity to the border.
They vary so much.
It just varies so much, and you even now as a grown-up, you sort of find yourself when you cross the line to England, you think, oh, everyone will speak differently now, but it's just such a. I don't know what it is. It's
like the Gretna accent. When I was at college, there was a couple of people from Gretna in my class when we were doing media studies, and both of them sounded like they were from Carlisle, because the Gretna accent is essentially just a Carlisle accent with a maybe slightly more rolled R. But you go from the Gretna accent all the way to the almost Irishness of Stranraer. And it's such a lovely variety.
I just can't. I think there's so many factors there. There's upbringing, what you absorb around you, but there is a personal thing as well, which I don't have control over, which is I just don't seem to have any flex at all. I see it's almost like this is how I speak, and this is how you'll speak until you die, McNabb. There's no variation. And when I can tell people who know me, because they probably notice it less, but yeah, I'm very aware of it in Dumfries and Galloway. I've never had any negative kickback from it. And I don't want to say, I'm from Dumfries and Galloway, you know. I know I talk like this, I'm from Dumfries and Galloway, because then you find yourself almost apologising for it. I'm like, no, I don't want to. Yeah, and it endorses the position that an accent means something. But at the same time, it does mean something. It does speak to who you are. So, yeah, it's really complicated. I think it probably does affect how people see me and engage with me, but I seem to be incapable of dropping it. So this is just how I talk. It seems I can't do accents. Some people can do really good accents. I can't do. I just seem to be the lobe of your brain that deals with that. Mine is stunted, sadly. So I'm stuck talking like I'm from the 19th century, and this is how it's going to be. I don't know. But yeah. Do you come up across that? You don't meet people who talk like this. If someone's watching this in 20 years' time and they're saying, how do people in Dumfries and Galloway speak in 2026? Would it be fair to say I'm not representative?
You're not the stereotype, that's for sure.
Again, in 2026 we've got such a spread of accents now, because again, we were talking about all the people earlier, we were talking about who's coming into the region, quite like a lot of people.
Migration.
So, you know, it's such a mix, even now.
Yeah, you hear people who speak posh, but they have a little bit of a Scottish twang to it. I feel like that's quite an interesting on the spectrum of accents. There's sort of me here at the far extreme, and then you get sort of clear enunciation, but with a Scottish lilt to it. So wherever they go in the world, people will say, "Oh, there's a bit of that Scottish," and it's like that's from Dumfries and Galloway, right the way through to the gloriously unintelligible at the other end of the scale. And so it's how. I don't know how I don't know.
I suspect to be also kind of things that can mark you out as your choice of words as well. Like using the Scots vernacular rather than kind of. I know I've thrown people with me because they've not picked up on my accent, and then I've thrown in Scots vernacular. And
they've placed you with that, or they've
confused them. It's like, why are you using that word? I'm like, because I've lived here, I've grown up here my entire life.
But you've been here long enough, though. Do you hear a change? Is there a change going on in Galloway at the moment with accents?
I think for me, because I was away for so long, it was kind of a lot of the people I grew up with are no longer around either. They've moved elsewhere. So it's kind of the people that I had for my benchmark are not here to kind of compare against.
That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's hard for me to really kind of say has it
you
changed
can't see a change,
especially for me. Like, it's people saying like, oh, now that I've been back, I've spent quite a lot of time back here recently. It's kind of like they're hearing in me the difference in how I speak again and being back here.
So you have what I envy. Your chameleon ability.
But even then, even with this, people are like, oh, well, it's not. You don't sound very Scottish. Have you lived there long or like?
Yeah.
But
I went to there's a Gralloch bike race. Have you heard about the Gralloch bike race in Gatehouse a couple of years ago? And so they had 3,500 entrants, and so there's all these cyclists who have never been to Dumfries and Galloway before, but they come because this race has been established with a route that runs through Galloway Forest, and these are people who live online and they just travel wherever these races are, and so they come to Dumfries and Galloway without any experience or knowledge of what to come from the area. And when I was walking through the Galloway, it wasn't the accents that struck me, it was the ages. They were all so young. They're just so young and fit and healthy and young, and there were fancy cars in the car park, and I was like, it's only now that you realise the Dumfries and Galloway, with its stats about elderly population, old ages of local demographics, that just struck me so much, is that it's almost not the accents, it's the ages of people, which is when you go to Manchester or London or Glasgow or anything like that, it's the number of young people is the surprising thing.
We have a definite dearth of young people, that's certainly sure, for sure. Obviously working in libraries, I also get to see a skew of that demographic, because most people who come into the libraries are older people. Although we do get quite a reasonable amount of children. It's a funny thing, actually. You get small children, you get primary age children, and then they largely disappear. Except they like to come back when they're doing their study leave. So you see the teenagers doing their study leave. They come and sit in the library and study quietly.
I think it was you I heard this stat of, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it's something like the number of people in the school system in Galloway
Yeah, yeah.
They were all to go into the care sector.
It would be insufficient to look after a projected elderly population. I heard that stat. Whether that's true or not, but the principle there is that we are simply not replacing people at a rate quickly enough to look after a projected elderly population. So if people move here at 63, which is a common sort of thing to do, you have 20 years of loving being in Dumfries and Galloway, and then you start to build up the care requirements and things like that come with it. It's so complicated, and I'm not young anymore. The time I was young, but as working age person, I parked in Castle Douglas the other day beside a motorhome which had a personalised number plate, and it was towing a car, these holiday cars, that is nicer than my actual car. So like their comedy holiday car is nicer than the car I use every day as my actual car, and the car has a personalised number plate on it as well. And I just thought there's something, I really hope that when I retire, that's still, I feel like that is what an amazing stage to be in, to be able to retire, have your health, have sufficient funding to have a motorhome the size of my flat when I lived in Manchester, and have a personalised number plate on it, and pull a car. And I just thought, I don't know, I'm cheery and welcoming, but there is something going on in Dumfries and Galloway at the moment which is quite scary, which is people of an age are leaving, and everyone else who's arriving is of an age. And I just hope that when people see this in 20 years' time, I don't know whether there'll be a solution will be found, or maybe people will be desperate to come to Dumfries and Galloway.
It's about work for working age people.
Yeah, and we've had this great breakthrough in the last couple of years with this home working is now people can work from home and you can work from anywhere. And so at the Gralach Festival, they said, I was on a panel, which is ridiculous, I haven't ridden a bike for years, but they said, come and sit on this panel, McNabb. I was like, oh, you know me, I'll go anywhere where there's a panel. And they said, McNabb, what message would you give to the 3,500 people who are biking round? And I said, enjoy the view and have a good ride, but do challenge yourself when you're going around to say, if you're of working age and you can work from home, you could actually live here. You could work from here, and just have that in your mind to think, because these are the disposable incomes that we want in the regions.
And the people who will then go on and have children
will
go to our schools.
Absolutely. So as I don't see this as a funny place you come for a bike ride. Like actually, you could live here if you're.
It's glorious, and it's beautifully rural, and it's a great place to ride a bike.
We touched on your Galloway work experience earlier on, but going more into detail now, can you tell us about the Galloway Glens project that you worked on, please?
Yes. As shy and reticent as I am to talk about Galloway Glens, I'll see if I can answer that a little bit. Yes. No, the Galloway Glens was 5 years of activity, so 2018 to 2023, focusing on the Kendee Valley, so Cookubry, Castle Douglas, and then up round the Glenkens. So the principals were mostly funded by Lottery, National Lottery Heritage Fund, and it's one of these what we call landscape partnership projects. There's been about 100 landscape partnerships across the UK, and the principle is that rather than doing a single big thing, you do lots of things in a defined area, and you generate sort of landscape scale engagement or change. And so 2016, the initial grant was being talked about, so I had 18 months to try and work up from this original idea of you could do something involving the Kendee Valley. And then we had an 18-month development phase where we said, everyone pitch in your ideas. What would you like to see? What are the challenges you think the valley's facing? And how could a heritage-funded project address those challenges? And then we had 5 years of activity. And with 6 main aims, it's quite nice, I haven't said this out loud for a wee while, so it's quite good for me. So 6 main aims. It was, how can you better understand the heritage of the area? So there were some misunderstandings or knowledge gaps. How can we fill in some of those gaps? How can we do education skills? How can we give young people an opportunity to stay in the area? How can we encourage people to visit the area? So that was making use of facilities and things. Loads of currently underused or under-resourced community buildings. How can we make better use of those community buildings? And then the natural habitats and sort of environments of the valley. And then access. So how can we improve opportunities for public access in the valley? So there's 6 main aims, and we set out with 35 projects across those 6 aims, and it was just a partnership project in every sense of the word. It was a real genuine partnership because there was too much for us to do, so we had to reach out to other people. And what was so lovely is it definitely felt like it sort of generated momentum. And the first year, everyone was still rather disbelieving. What's happening here? There's money to do this, and then you start doing some things, and then you shout about them, and so people start saying, "Oh, if you did that, it would be quite good if you did this as well, or you could do that." And we had a lot of flex in it. We pushed the comms really hard, the branding really hard, and then a great comment we had in last year, which was, "I've got a project idea now, but it feels very Galloway Glensy." And I thought, "Oh, that's lovely. What on earth is Galloway Glensy?" It sort of developed a sort of thing. It was really good. But it was completely shamelessly focused on the valley. And so I loved that, because back to our previous point about the enormousness of Dumfries and Galloway, what is interesting and relevant here might not be relevant over here. So it was quite nice, because within the Kendy Valley, even if you live in the Glenkens, you do go to Castle Douglas occasionally, you go to Cookubry, the people of Cookubry go to Castle Douglas. It's enormous, but it's sort of worked as a thing. You got the hydro scheme running through it, which gave it just a bit of coherence. So we were very lucky, and it had as an overall scheme coherence, but all the projects individually stood in their own right. But there were some lovely moments when this project did something that was of use to this project, and within the Galloway Glens team we were able to say, "Did you know, by the way, they've done that," or to get these two people together, and it worked. So yeah, it was good. And there was a whole range of projects we did under the cultural heritage theme, which tie in so well with Talking Galloway and trying to capture, write down, and sort of gather the local heritage of the area. Yeah. There we are. That is a distilled version. I've also got a 40-minute PowerPoint presentation about Galloway Glens, but that's a distilled version of Galloway Glens. I was one. I just obviously can't not say thank you so much to the funders of the schemes. It's about £6 million in all, which is quite a lot of money when you say it out loud. More than half of it came from the lottery. The rest of it was all from all sorts of different match funders. Thank you to everyone who had a project that they were willing to let us work on, or letting us input into it. And thank you to the team. There were a team of 5 staff at the middle of it all. And throughout it all, we had this, the principle in the office was we had a massive clock on the wall, which is, we've only got 5 years. And so what can we do in 5 years? And it's quite interesting, because there was a discussion at the end of saying, oh, there's some things going on here. Why don't we keep it going on? Sort of in terms of everyone's mental health, it was quite good to stop it while we're where we were. But also there's an element of hurry through it all, which I think was really good. And sometimes it stopped. If someone says, "Oh, we'd like to do this, but we can do this next year," then one goes, "Oh, phew, we'll do it next year. Let's just do it next year. That's brilliant." And before you know it, it just slips and steps. It was really like, no, there is no next year. We've got to do it this year.
So it gives you some urgency.
Yeah, it gave urgency, and it means it flushes things out quicker. And if is this going to happen? This is a lovely idea. It's just not going to happen in the time, so we can't. So it meant, yeah. So it was quite interesting. So it worked really well from its the principles of projects feeding off each other and developing sort of momentum. But yeah. I don't know. How was it for you from the outside?
Well, I was going to say, for me, it's that I was not in the region that much during that time, but my thing is obviously doing the walking, like my walking videos, and so I've benefited from routes that have been opened up by you guys, for example, in New Galloway. And was it all the way from New Galloway to Mosdale, or was it to just? Yeah,
so we did some along the Mosdale Railway line. Yeah.
So is that a path that goes from the golf course at New Galloway across?
Oh yeah, did that. So, yeah.
And that's one of the first ones that I've sort of started filming walks. I'm like, oh, this was Galloway Glens. Okay. Yeah. I didn't realise that it kind of gotten out to that. So for me, it's kind of the opening up of the routes, which I love. It's fantastic. So
that footpath is quite interesting, because it wasn't in the original plan. So we had an original plan of projects we would do, and then there's always things dropping out or coming in, and then that was a landowner was very supportive. There was funding available. There was interest from the community, and so we were able to. This is, I think, what worked really well with Galloway Glens is we were able to sort of shift into what is deliverable in that time. And that sounds like a good idea, and it's happening during the Galloway Glens. Let's see if we can put some support into it and get it over the line. So it's like a flex that happened in it with that group. It's quite interesting.
So I'm assuming it's probably a similar situation to like your children. You can't pick a favourite. But would you be able to give us some of the highlights of it, rather than give an idea of what the projects were? Because, obviously I've mentioned Footpath, but you said there's many things were going on. There's so much to say. There are some. The amount of money spent does not relate to the sheer joy
that the project gave me. So some of the projects where you spent £7.50 on were just a complete delight and will live with me forever. And other ones which we put a lot more money into were fulfilled the aims, objective, but for some reason they didn't trigger me personally in some ways. We did this project called Forgotten Voices or Changing Voices with Dr. John Burns. Did you hear about this at all? He interviewed people and recorded the interviews and was asking a set series of questions, and he had 50 local Scots words, and we had a quiz. Did you reach you? We had to do a quiz. How many of these words do you know and do you not use? And so then he graphed them to say which words were coming in. And there was one called gang body. Do you remember a gang body? It was a sort of someone who wandered around. And he said that there were very few people who knew that word. And he said that 30 years ago there were people who just turned up and just sort of or went from project to project, and there were some words in there that were so good. And what lives with me with that is that he did some recordings of he did an event at the end of it, just talking about his findings about how words are changing and how language is changing in Dumfries and Galloway. And then he actually included some audio recordings, and he'd done one interview with John McCubbin, who I don't know is in your sights as a potential interview candidate, but it's just absolutely got an absolute brilliant accent. And John McCubbin, or Cubby as everyone calls him, did a story about how the dentist used to come, I think it was Kells, the dentist came to Kells Primary School in a van and just did all the kids, did all their teeth. And he did this story about how the scariest dentist, this woman dentist, and everyone was afraid of her and everything, and he did the story to a room of about 50 people. It was being played on the audio, and every single person in the room was in tears, absolute tears of laughter. It was just absolutely the best. And I thought, this is everyone here is connecting with it in a way that is unbelievable. And there's something about how an oral history project, you think oral history, it's just like, that's what it was. It took everyone in the room was taken back to their childhoods. And it makes my spine tingle even now, because it was such a completely perfect moment. And then at the end, someone said, because I was talking, and they were like, "Oh, McNabb, you should pick up a few of those words," or something like that. And it was just, and then John was like, no, because we're all the different voices of the Galloway contribute to where we are today. So yeah, no, it's on the YouTube channel. There's a Galloway Glens YouTube channel, which is probably one of the last sort of key digital assets or digital legacies. And it's on there, and it's well worth a look at. So that's a project that cost literally hardly anything at all, absolutely. And then, some of we did some of the footpath projects. That one, the link from the Ken Bridge up into New Galloway. It was just a perfect example. The community wanted it, and it's to see people as you drive past there now. There's people walking on it now. Those are the things. There's too many that stand out from it. I'm just struck by how one of the best things about Galloway Glens was the comms, is that we pushed constant comms. I felt like some of the press releases we sent out were dangerously close to sort of local man receives letter sort of press release. Boom, send it out, take a picture, and there's all these pictures of me standing beside him. And if you put up a sign on a footpath, you take a picture of the footpath, you put it on social media, and you send a press release of the site, and at the time you think this is nuts, but it just develops this feeling of coherence and momentum, and it meant that a project over here sort of felt a little bit part of everything else that was going on, and we did merchandise for the partners, and it really did feel like a family of the Galloway Glens as a family, and that was the best thing about it.
But that actually did come across in the comms, because that was one of the things I followed the comms for Galloway Glens quite a lot, and you know, there's just so much going on at the time. And it was like this. It was constant, and nothing ever. Like the comms was quite funny because there was no management of the comms, and nowadays you'd have to have a comms officer, and they would pick up key themes and branding palette and mood board and things. Whereas we had a sort of like a burning dumpster fire of comms approach, which was, oh my goodness, the thing, and then the minute you said something, you then drowned it with three other things that swamped it, and it's like it just gave an impression of it just gave this feeling of momentum, which was built really nicely. I think absolutely. It was very, very busy.
Yeah, it gave the impression.
You were always doing something.
It felt very good, and it was something that was unreplicable. And the comment was made. So it's a 5-year contract, and when that came to an end, someone said, "Oh, McNabb, you could go and do you could run a landscape partnership up in Fife. And I was like, I don't care about Fife. I mean, so there was something so... no offence to Fife viewers that are in the room, honestly, but this idea of it allowed me to shamelessly focus on the area. And nothing we did was... I mean, some of the systems we did were probably replicable, but everything was so unique to Galloway. Yeah, actually,
Lovely, absolutely.
So did you feel that the community was really getting involved and was helping build that?
Yeah, 100%. And it just had a good vibe to it. That's not to say my inbox wasn't full of some cross people, quite a lot, but if everybody likes you, you're doing something wrong, is the phrase I try and use. But definitely so much of it, and to see people... Because it was very weird. We hadn't really had anything like that before. And I think initially people were like, well, you could do that if you want, McNabb, but who's going to do it? And then to see people saying, my God, we've got another 3 years of what else do we do in the next 3 years? That's all because of the engagement that we'd had. That's all. So much of what we did, or what Galloway Glens did, was because of people giving their time. I'm astonished by people giving their time and stuff.
So now that the dust's had a bit of time to settle, what do you think the legacy's been then?
Well, there was a big discussion about whether it should go on longer, and we said no. The principle was we'll stop it and leave people wanting leave them wanting to do something similar again. So it's brilliant to see the Scamp Solway Coast and Marine project, which is enormous, probably 4 or 5 times the size of Galloway Glens, with a remit across the whole coast. It's now in development phase at the moment, 2026, and so part of it is that what is the legacy is that I'd like to think that we showed the model of how a local authority like the council can work with community groups, and I think that's probably the main legacy. I'd like to think the rather more tangible cultural legacy, in purpose of this podcast, would be there was the materials, there were projects, there were products, there was a re-engagement, hopefully, with some areas. We did things like the Archie McConnell's work at the Dumfries Archival Mapping Project, which is DAMP, is the acronym, obviously brilliant acronym. But then we sort of dragged him into the Stewartry, and then now he's got this amazing, all these maps that have been uncovered and been digitised, and at the National Library of Scotland Mapping Service. There were sort of project outputs, which I hope I could talk for days about those project outputs, but the overall aim was leave people wanting to do something similar again, which I'm hoping the great Galloway Glens had a part to play, and I don't know, but it's brilliant that Scamp's now getting underway with much bigger ambition. And I think there's a lot of the staff that were on Galloway Glens are now working on Scamp, and I think the ambition is obviously to say, let's pick what things that worked, and not everything worked. It's important to say that there were some things that we tried that didn't work, but pick what worked and embed it there. I think it's quite good. There's lots of unspoken, difficult things to talk about. Like there was a lot of trust, and we almost devolved the sort of nuclear codes into the field, whatever the phrase is. Like the staff had the ability to make decisions and ability to flex and jump on things that work, and that's risky because you are devolving central coordination and control. Yes. But it means that when a member of staff goes into a meeting, they've got actual financial contributions they can make, and if someone asks them a question, they can say yes or no. And I think there's nothing like that. There's nothing worse than saying that, yes, well, I'll have to get back to you on that yes or no, and then it's taken away and the excitement in the room is dissipated. It's like, no, you need to jump on things, and that's risky because you're trusting people with it. And I think that's probably one of the things that I enjoyed the most with it.
There was a lovely little series of books that came out from Galloway Glens. They spoke to Paul Gilpin in our last episode about Last Flights, which was one of them. Do you want to tell us a bit about how they came about?
I could give you an hour and a half on how this came about, because every book was slightly different. I think the interesting thing about the books is that the books weren't really a sort of key project of Galloway Glens. It's just we found, once Galloway Glens was underway, that we were unearthing materials that should really be in a book. So it almost became as a result of things. And then, so then I think we did 6 books. And it's so tempting nowadays to say, we should put it online, just put it online. But there was nothing quite like having a tangible book, sort of, what's it called, coffee table book, almost, or a tangible thing that people read. And so the book with Paul was just obviously a complete delight, because Paul's a complete superstar and had done all the work. And then the discussion was really, Paul, is there something, this is too good to be hidden away as a PDF or something like that. If Galloway Glens was to find money to do some books, would you be willing to have this as one of the books? And Paul was so game to roll with it. How much the books cost, we'll not dwell on that, because we got completely carried away with the typesetting and the graphics and the design, and then they're printed on really nice paper. You could be cheaper paper, we've got really nice paper, and then how many do we print? And then but is there something quite interesting? This is why I'm so happy to be part of this podcast, is because these are fleeting cultural heritage, sort of fleeting ephemeral things, and the art is you lock them down for future people, and it's sometimes you're locking down what might seem quite an esoteric niche thing. Paul's books, for instance, that's done now. There is a they were distributed locally in the community. They're also in the libraries. They're still circulating. You can see the version online as well on the Glenkens Hub website, but there's I'm so grateful for Paul. So it's quite interesting because none of those, there was never a project to release a series of books. Galloway Glens, we just tried so hard with fundraising. We're spending a whole time filling funding applications in because the more you did, the more you wanted to do. And so the books, there would have been thousands of pounds to do those 6 books. But it was felt to be, there's just, once you've uncovered the data, you've got the details there. It's like, just get it over the line. I'm so glad you asked that question, Angela, because that's one of the best things about Galloway Glens, what I enjoyed the most, because we got things over the line. It's the same with videos. People say, you should do a video about this. And you say, okay, yes, you should do a video. And then you have to find a cameraman and get them there on the day. And is that the right day? And this, by the way, have you met this person? Can you do this person? And then the camera sends you a first draft of the video and it's got none of the names on any of the things. And then you have to, it just takes such a lot of time. But there's nothing like, boom, printing, as you guys know with a video. That's it, done. It's out, it's done. And then at the end of the year, you can say we've done this many videos, but it's something brilliant about getting things over the line. I think that's what Galloway Glens, we took such great delight in, is you can do something, but then actually to go a little bit further, you lock it in, and then does that end up being a heritage asset, which is useful? It might not immediately seem to be financially the most sensible decision at the moment you're doing it, but does it become an asset that in 20 years' time people will know more about plane crashes in the Glenkens as a result?
That heritage aspect is a bit priceless. It's a bit like the Carlsberg thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You might put money into it, but the actual cultural value is priceless.
Absolutely. How do you ever effectively value that? It's very, very hard to do it. But we see Paul's just a complete superstar in what he's done, and getting that book out, I think, means that anyone who's studying anything about aviation in southwest Scotland is going to say, oh, did you know there's a wee book about that? And I'm like, that's what I love, is that it gets in, it'll be carried forward.
And of course it's a Second World War thing, it's good resources and all of that, absolutely.
Moving on from the Galloway Glens, you now work for Dumfries and Galloway Woodlands, G Woodlands. Can you tell us a bit about that project, please?
So Galloway Glens finished in 2023, and there was the potential to stay on in the council, but then this opportunity came up to leave the council and work for this new charity called Dumfries and Galloway Woodlands, which is now 3 years old, which is rather exciting. And so when it started, it was just me, and now there's 3 of us. What on earth are we doing and why do we exist? There were 3 or 4 different things going on in 2023. So we had Galloway Glens finishing with a couple of tree-related things that were landing nicely, and people saying, oh, it's a shame they're stopping. We have Borders Forest Trust doing things over in the Borders. People saying, oh, why aren't there sort of Borders Forest Trust things happening out west in Dumfries and Galloway? And then we had Woodland Trust, who have got presence and activity all across Scotland, except in Dumfries and Galloway, it just so happens. And so there was an idea of input from Woodland Trust. And then separately within the council, there was awareness that people are planting a lot of trees in Dumfries and Galloway, and they're making a lot of money out of it. Wouldn't it be good if some of that money stayed in the region rather than it was being made externally?
Yes.
And so Dumfries and Galloway, here we are in 2026, Dumfries and Galloway is absolutely on the front line of commercial timber in Scotland, if not the UK, frankly. The comment was made that Scotland is planting the UK's trees. Well, actually, the south of Scotland is planting Scotland's trees. So we are completely the engine room of this tree revolution. And so So we set up a broad range of, yes, we do landowner support for native woodland creation and wildlife corridors and all the loveliness that comes from trees. But also we're trying to work with the commercial sector to say, if you're lucky enough to be investing in a special place like Dumfries and Galloway, these are the problems we have in Dumfries and Galloway, and this is how your investment can sort of contribute towards that. So we're talking about raising the bar, really, of engagement and local benefits that come from woodland. The problem with woodland is that the benefits are delivered on the national stage and the disbenefits are felt locally. So everything that we're doing is happening in Dumfries and Galloway is to build towards this target of where 80%, we import 80% of our timber. How can we reduce this? And there's projected demand of timber is going to increase. Oh, and also, by the way, we're not making anything out of plastic anymore. Everything's made out of cellulose or paper and everything. So demand for paper is increasing, or demand for timber is increasing. So we are Dumfries and Galloway, good soils, Gulf Stream, low population, proximity to market. We're a really good place for planting quick growing softwoods. And how can we make sure that this transition to net zero is going to be built on the back of Dumfries and Galloway? How can we get the benefit out of it, really? I think is what was quite interesting. But yeah. So working across all sectors of the forestry sector, we're now 3 people. You could be a member, boom, free to be a member. And we've got trustees, and we're now a standalone sort of charity in our own right.
Where can you sign up to be a member?
On our website. On our website you can sign up. Oh, we could get it to come up along the bottom, the ticker along the bottom.
I'll put it in the description.
So yes, you can sign up as a member. And we're trying to cover everything from just the sheer love of trees, the sheer love of native trees, and all the folklore and tree history and everything that's in Dumfries and Galloway, right the way through to how can we support skills and jobs and things that come out of the forestry sector, back up to actually if you're a Channel Islands based investment house planting trees in Dumfries and Galloway, how can we be a bridge between your investment and actually helping some of those benefits in the region? Yes, and it's been easy through time to invest in Dumfries and Galloway from a distance. And I think there's nothing worse than meeting someone who says, "Oh, I've always been a big fan of Dumfries and Galloway," and it's no. This is you're lucky to be able to be investing in Dumfries and Galloway, but we do have some problems in the region. How can your investment actually be tied to addressing some of these problems?
We just filmed you putting a major project for G Woodlands to bed with the storyteller statue, and I remember you saying it was actually just a tiny fraction what you are doing in G Woodlands. So do you want to tell us about some of your other projects that aren't the storyteller?
Yes, so it's probably quite good mentally to have some time away from the storyteller, just for them on a personal level. Yeah, the headline aim of what we're doing is we're helping landowners plant the next generation of native trees. So we're planting trees all across Dumfries and Galloway, and that's people who've busy doing other things with the land and have never had time to think about trees, have realised all their trees are of a certain generation or a certain age, and they want to plant the next generation of trees. And then maybe they've inherited land, or they've bought land in Dumfries and Galloway, or they're just aware of all the benefits that trees bring. So that's our core job, is working with landowners across the region. And underneath that, we have other projects we've been doing, some of which is this adding value to local woodlands, which is where the storyteller fits. Working with the commercial sector, working with planting sort of woodland creation schemes. The forest schools is just exploding as something we're trying to do. So activities and events outside, getting kids out, events coming this summer, getting kids out into woodlands as partly as a highlight of your summer holidays, but also just to obviously waken the next generation to this idea of how to be in a woodland and what benefits to opening people's eyes, the opportunities of woodlands. And then we've bought a woodland outside Dalbeattie called Benwell Wood, which we've called the Woodland Laboratory, and it's a naturally regenerating woodland, and so we're trying lots of different treatments, different rates of thinning, different companion planting, different things, sort of novel treatments to how can you get useful timber out of a naturally regenerating woodland. And within the forestry sector, I think sometimes natural regeneration is seen as a bit of a waste, or you just get straggly things you can't do anything with. But no, we've got a birch. This birch woodland is exploding in front of us. 2 years old birch woodland is all coming out of the ground. Dalbeattie obviously being derived from Gaelic for Vale of the Birches, is that right? Is the thing? So it's like, so you take, this is by many ways, this is destined. Why is it called this? It's destined to be birch woodland. And how can we change birch woodland from, oh, that's just firewood, McNabb, to actually say, no, we can actually make usable things out of it. There's this interesting kitchen table paradox issue, which is the closer, if you want to make a kitchen table, the closer the wood comes from Dumfries and Galloway, the more expensive it is. If it's from China, it's cheap. It's from Europe, it's going to cost to get Europe. UK timber, you're lucky to get that. And then Dumfries and Galloway, we haven't got any timber in Dumfries and Galloway. When obviously the secret is we do.
Yes.
It's a supply model issue, and so it's quite nice to challenge that perception to say that there are other things you can do with a regenerating birch woodland than just firewood. So we'll see how it is. So we've got sort of projects operate underneath it. But the main aim is sort of celebrating the love of trees and trying to bring everyone on this journey of this massive tree planting era which we're in now.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on bringing up Glaciers Hill. There's also a place, there's community woodland there as well.
Yeah. Have you been there?
I've been up there.
Brilliant,
I took some pictures, put it up on my Facebook page, which we'll share to our own, the Talking Galloway Facebook page. It's a lovely wee spot, quite a lovely day, the sun reflecting off the river, and it's obviously still very new, and the planting...
Yes, calling it a woodland is rather hilarious, isn't it? Yes, it
is. Obviously, the paths have been cut, but people are already going up there and using it for little walks and things like that, and it'd be interesting once the forestry grows up around it. I'm also intrigued, is there going to be walks coming into it, kind of encouraging people, is there going to be more coming to that?
And yes, yeah, absolutely. And it's such a relationships game. This is all a relationships game. And so the aim is, that's now 2-3 years old, Glaciers Bridge. And when you get there, it is a relatively small, about 5 hectare site with some paths cut around it. And the comment was made of, it's the middle of nowhere, McNabb. No one will use it as middle of nowhere. And obviously the great secret is that nowhere is the middle of nowhere in Dumfries and Galloway. And I think that's something I'm quite enjoying saying to people, because there's a slight perception of, there's just no one really there. You can get away with what you want in Dumfries and Galloway. And I'm not saying that that these things are going to drastically change living standards in Dumfries and Galloway. It's just about lifting the quality of life just slightly. And so... that's the first time that's happened. That's been leased. That's part of a woodland creation scheme. It's been leased to the local community. And within that one sentence, obviously, is probably 2 years' work of building it. How do we know the community are not lunatics? How do we know the developer's going to work with us? Who's going to carry public liability insurance? Are you actually an entity to do this? You're planting a tree. What type of trees are you planting? Where? There is such a lot of relationship building. And to see now, I'm so glad you said that, Andy, about what's next, because when you look at that, it's a small island of a site. And the natural thing you see is how can we get from there into the next one or up there? And that is all just building now. We're now talking about putting a car park there. And when we first did it, there was, you don't need a car park because no one's going to use it and things. But now, when we first cut the paths, they're just cut paths. They're not built paths. It's just cut paths. We cut the path on a Tuesday. And then I went up on a Wednesday night to see how the paths were looking, and there was someone walking on the path. And I said, where on earth have you come from? What are you doing? And she said, I lived just around the corner and I saw the paths been cut. And I thought there's some things like Sim City, you build street in Sim City and these people appear walking in the middle of it. And I was like, this feeds in it, because it's never going to be Threve, it's never going to be an enormous sort of visitor hotspot. It's just about, there are people still living in the hills, and it's such a shame. Big planting scheme gets a deer fence put around it and the gates are locked. And you think there's such a missed opportunity with access. And if you are the manager of that woodland, it is so much easier if that gate is locked, because it's one less thing to worry about, and it's just one. And it's just easy. And you've planted loads of trees, and it's going to be left propped open so deer can get in, and there's a dangerous hit to your crop. And it's just. So I think what we're going to try and say is that there are some sane and sober partners like Dumfries and Galloway Woodlands out there who are able to say, who actually do we speak to about that? And then do we need a sign that appropriately says you should keep this gate shut, because it's just relationships, bloody relationship building, which is exhausting. But in certain places, the baseline is quite low. And so if we can lift it in terms of communities and developers adding value, that's the ambition with it.
It's almost filled with dreams. If you build it, they'll come.
Build it, they'll come. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Is there any upcoming projects with the G Woodlands that you're particularly looking forward to?
Yeah, no, there's loads. There's loads coming through. In many ways, Dumfries and Galloway Woodlands is sort of exploding in lots of different tree-related directions, and part of it is our complete inability to say no to anything. In lots of directions, but we're only 2.5 people. And I would like to think we'd be looking to maybe add to the team a bit in the next couple of months, because there's so much that is being talked about in the office that we just haven't got time to do. We did a hedge laying event 2 months ago, which was lovely and great fun, but what's come out of it is there used to be a Dumfries and Galloway hedge laying event, hedge laying competition every year, and then that stopped about 10 years ago, and so immediately we're like, oh, well, we need to restart the Dumfries and Galloway hedge laying competition. And then we've been talking about Dumfries and Galloway apple juice and gathering people's apples to make into an apple juice that people could then contribute to some master Dumfries and Galloway bottling of apple juice using sort of corporate commercial equipment, and then you get your own bottle back knowing that 0.3% is from your own apple tree in the garden, and all these things. We're working with the prison who've got these amazing big polytunnels. They're growing 600 wild crab apple trees at the moment and 500 acorns. The question's going to come up of, McNabb, what on earth are you going to do with them all? So I feel like we're just exploding into lots of different things. I want the central thrust with all of this is helping landowners, and I think that's what's going so well, is that people are starting to see the value we can add to this and and get the trees into the ground, which is the exciting thing.
Yes. In doing all of that, of course, you work with a lot of different bodies. What's it like to actually coordinate like that when you're working with the council and you're working with the Forestry Commission and you're working with the local landowners and things like that?
So I'm not a forester, and when I got into this job, I was like, oh God, I'm not a forester. But there's a secret here: is it's just people. It's just I've realised it's just like everything. It's just people, and it's all relationships with people, and it's the ability to find some mutually compatible aim, which allows something to happen. It's very, it does, there's a Galloway Densiness to it, and the fact that it's really just people trying to work with other people, I think is probably the best way of doing it. But it's a difficult time. 2026, I think, we're times we'll be looking back at local authority retreating in what it can achieve, and budget cuts and things that are coming through. And then we have these strange things going on, like wind farm community benefit funds coming on stream and stuff. So money is getting more complicated. It used to be things were centrally funded. Now it relies on people to package bits of money together. But once you get over that, you still need to do the stuff. I think that's where the people and partnerships comes in, probably.
Is there anything else you'd like to add regarding
G Woodlands? Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think there's so much mythology and history behind trees. We've been talking about aspen. Aspen's derived from the Gaelic Iea, which is the buoyant one, because it's the most buoyant timber. People used to make sort of paddles and oars out of aspen, but it's completely devoid from our landscape at all at the moment, aspen. So we're trying to reintroduce aspen, and it's supposed to be, it was said that aspen was the wood that made Jesus' cross, and so why it's had such a complex relationship with people through the last 2,000 years, and I'm just so interested in how witches hate Rowan, so witches would stop butter from setting into curds, and so you have to make the butter making implements were made out of Rowan. I just think I love the mythology and the connections behind it so much. I think that's what I really excite, is the Galloway histories and Galloway stories because people look back on this era as a massive amount of planting of conifer in Dumfries and Galloway, and I think it's really nice to focus on the stories of the native species. And I mean, every place names were named after tree types. Every different tree had a different use. We knew more, frankly, than we know now. So that's what I'm loving, is trying to reconnect us to the heritage of trees. I think
even just like from here, I think of a couple of places that have got place names that are trees. Obviously, Kells comes from the Gaelic for woods, and Kersfairn is the place of the elders in Gaelic, and so many places are.
Did we used to value trees differently? And then my friends came to stay with me, and I showed them a conifer plantation. They said, "Oh, do we need that many Christmas trees?" And I was like, "We're so detached now from trees. They're just a thing. It's a tree." Whereas it used to be, every tree was seen in terms of medicinal properties and uses, and something very interesting.
The Gaelic alphabet, in fact, is represented. The Scots Gaelic alphabet is represented. Every letter represents something tree-ish.
Yeah.
So, approximately, it's very naturalistic, that.
Yeah.
I love important to people. Then.
I love it when mythological folklore things turn out to have an element of truth to them, which happens so often now. There's that thing with rhubarb. Oh, it kills this or something like that, and it turns out now it does have an antiseptic property in it. And I'm like, these things are not just hilarious stories; they were stories for a reason. It's interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
any places, locations, walks, or anything like that that you'd recommend to people who are coming in from outside the region, who don't know the region?
My single favourite walk, possibly ever, is up through Forest Estate, up Corsarine, and then along the top of Corsarine to Michaelmillier, and then back down. It's about 11 miles, and it feels like a proper walk. It feels like a proper walk. Yeah. You get feral goats, you get sort of upland lochans, you get absolutely nobody, you get a tumbled down dyke, you get, it's just, I think that's the best thing too. And really good Forest Estate, a good car park, they've got signposts all the way up. Do dress appropriately for it, because it's a proper walk. Yes. You have to have proper shoes, proper gear, food and drink and things. But you can do it in 6-7 hours. I think it's my absolute favourite. I did it the other week, and it's like a master reset switch. You come back in all smug and hearty. It's quite insufferable.
Where would you take someone to eat?
Oh, well, the Thai kitchen in Kirkcudbright was my absolute favourite place, but it's now shut, sadly. The Clachan's very good in Dalry. I absolutely love Piccolo Italiano in Money Ive. I think that's probably my favourite place. It's just always dependably brilliant. Pizzas and beer is very good. I think the best place to eat, I think my favourite place to eat is actually outside Galloway's in Dumfries. Do you go to T.A. Francis and Sons? Do you ever go to Francis and Sons? The best, everything they do is brilliant. It's a bakery. It's based in Annan, but they've got a branch in Dumfries. And every time I go to Dumfries, their bread freezes terribly well as well. So every time I go to Dumfries, I buy as much bread as I can get and then freeze it all brilliantly, because it's Dumfries and Galloway. They often sell out of bread by about 10:30 in the morning. So you have to get there nice and early in the day, but I go there. Also Sunrise in Castle Douglas.
Yes.
When I was young, my mum took me to Sunrise, and I remember thinking, it smells funny in here. There is nothing in here that I want at all. This is the most awful shop in the world. And then slowly, as I've got older, it's got better and better and better. And every health fad for the last 40 years has been anticipated by Sunrise shop in Castle Douglas. And now I can do a big shop in Sunrise. It's absolutely incredible. There will come a point when Sunrise shuts, and I don't know what's going to happen then.
I don't know. What will we do with it? Stephen Pauline?
I don't know. Dumfries and Galloway is going to just release us back into the woods, I think, at that point. The whole system falling apart. I think
it's definitely a civilising force.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
So moving on, we always ask, because we want to get people answering questions in the comments below. Answer this question in the comment below. Is there a wee Galloway mystery that you think maybe our listeners or viewers could help you with? Something in Galloway that you've come across that you just want to know more about?
It's very broad, but that comment I made earlier about the Napoleonic Wars I think I've sort of picked up quite a lot about people going away, fighting in battles, and making fame for themselves away. But what is the impact right here in Dumfries and Galloway? Were people being recruited and stripped out of the hills and taken to the battlefield? Were French prisoners of war, which is, I've heard 15 different versions of the story about, they built everything you can see now, McNabb, is made by a French prisoner of war, right the way through to, no, they never came to Dumfries and Galloway. I think it'd be quite interesting to know in that time what was it like, and what was life like in Dumfries and Galloway during the Napoleonic Wars. And so it'd be quite interesting to know any more about, did prisoners of wars come here, were taxes raised, were horses being bred in the fields, whether it was what was the impact of the Napoleonic Wars on the region? I think it'd be quite interesting where I am.
That is quite interesting. I have been doing a little bit of research, and one of the things that I do know is that the banking crisis that was basically made by the depression that was caused by the Napoleonic Wars was hit the local banks, because obviously at the time there was no big central banks. People were just, we'll build a bank in our town, sort of thing. So there used to be 3 banks in Castle Douglas, and then 2 of them closed because of the Napoleonic Wars. That's the only thing I know about it.
Really? This is the 1 week, by the way, where we've just heard the Royal Bank of Scotland is closing in Castle Douglas, meaning the Stewartry will be bankless, which is a bit of a milestone for us. It's interesting.
Yes. And there was such a big push for the Stewartry to have banks in the first place.
Yes, how funny, yes. And was it Duncan started banking and things, and now we're left without them? In 20 years' time, watching this, people will be unaware of what a bank is. Absolutely.
Just go the way of the cassette tape.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking to the effect of having small businesses, basically, I was seeing the other day, it's kind of like, if you go into a shop and you pay with a card, you get charged twice. Once, when it sort of sends off, checks this money in the account. Then, secondly, when the payment actually comes off, and then it's a percentage of the payment. So there's a fixed and then the percentage. And so it costs small businesses a fortune every year. And so now you're getting rid of the banks. Is there going to be cash machines? Or are we going to be purely digital? And
it's just such a complicated thing, because when you hear a bank is shutting, it's just awful. But obviously I have to say out loud, when was the last time I went in a bank is the problem. And that great comment I heard about buses, because buses are being cut, and someone in the bus department said, the one thing that keeps buses open is people using the buses. And I was like, there's something, we are, it's like schools. You would know to shut the school, but then it's no kids in it. It's such a, it's such a thing. So no, that's how interesting to hear that about Napoleonic era with banking, and then the banking crisis we face today. Maybe.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do at the library when they close the bank, because that's where we take all of our money. And where we get all of our change from. I suppose we can get that from the post office, but banking will be a bit different. I suppose a lot of people will actually bank through the post office in Castle Douglas.
thank you so much. This has been a fascinating conversation today.
It's been a very enjoyable one as well.
I've just talked at you, really. I feel an awful lot better. I've got an awful lot off my chest. I'm going to sleep well tonight.
Excellent. So, yes, thank you very much. And it's been great to have you, and we're really looking forward to bringing the podcast out.
Thank you. Thank you so much for writing.
You're more than welcome.
Absolutely.
Well, that was fun.
It was fun. A lot of fun. It's always fun talking to McNabb. It's a hoot.
It is. We will include information from items we've discussed in the description.
Yep, a link to G Woodlands. A link once again to the Cultural Glenkens archive, where a lot of the Galloway Glens stuff is. There was loads of things, and there will be linked below.
Yes.
So that was a good episode then.
It was. Enjoyed that.
Definitely enjoyed that. Got to Gallivant again. That was nice. We will see you next time.
Yep, when we're going to be talking to Ros Olin from who?
That's actually true. Yeah, Ros Olin. And before we forget, our contact details. If you have anything that you want to talk to us about, anything you want to get in touch with us about, just drop us a line at talkinggallowaypodcast@protonmail.com, or hop onto Facebook and send us a message on Messenger, or just on our page.
Yeah. You can also find us on Instagram as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us for this episode, and hopefully you can join us next time
for our episode with Ros.
Yeah.
Right. Take care.
Sláinte.
Cheery.
We'd like to thank the Cultural Glenkens through Catstrand, with help from the National Lottery Heritage Fund, for their funding and support. We'd also like to thank the Glenkens Community Shop for their funding, the Glenkens Community Centre for their use of the venue, and Dumfries and Galloway Library Service. Music, Bonnie Gallowa, arranged by Anne Chaurand, performed by Anne Chaurand and Faith. Finally, if you'd like to support us, you can do so via Buy Me a Coffee, link will be in the description, or if you're a business local to Galloway and would like to sponsor us, please reach out to us at talkinggallowaypodcast@protonmail.com.